Unbreakable Her, the podcast, is here. This is a space for the stories of resilient women. We all know them, we are them, and we celebrate them. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we aim to highlight some facts and figures around breast cancer just to make sure that people have the information that they need, and then also to celebrate those who have battled breast cancer and won, and those who are in the battle and winning, and to also honor those who, I don't know that I would say lost the battle, but those who fought valiantly and are no longer with us. We want to take time during this month to acknowledge and celebrate those women. So I think it's important to start with just some key facts about breast cancer. We're not going to do a full-on deep dive, but I do want to bring some facts forward. So here's some data. Each year in the United States, an estimated nearly 317,000 women will be diagnosed with invasive breast cancer, and an additional just over 59,000 will be diagnosed with non-invasive breast cancer. About 1 in 8 women, or 13% in the US, will be diagnosed with breast cancer at some point in their lifetime. If you think about that, if you're at a table and there are 8 seats and you're one of them, somebody at that table is likely to be diagnosed at some point in their lifetime. That's daunting. Anytime you hear the word cancer, it can be jarring, and it definitely strikes fear oftentimes in a lot of us, and I think that's warranted. Cancer is something that can be devastating. Even when people survive a cancer diagnosis, the change that they go through and the impact that it has on the person and also those who love and support them can be pretty intense. So it can be jarring. That said, breast cancer is one of the most treatable cancers. So when breast cancer is caught at the localized stage, so before it spreads, the 5-year relative survival rate can reach as high as 99%. Despite how common breast cancer is and how treatable it is, you still have a lot of women who are 40 plus who have not had even one initial mammogram screening within the past 2 years. So the recommendation from medical providers is that if you're a woman by age 40, you should be getting annual mammogram screenings. Many women still have not done that for whatever reason. The problem with not getting the screenings is that because the survival rate and the cure rate really depends on how early it's caught, when you don't get the screening done, you're giving yourself less of a chance for a cure if in fact you are diagnosed. So again, this is just information I want to share and make sure that I'm reminding everybody, every woman 40 plus, to please schedule your annual mammogram today. It can be the difference between life and death. If you've been meaning to do it and you have not yet done it, this is your reminder to schedule your mammogram today. Let me just tell you from personal experience, it is not comfortable, but it's really not that big a deal. And, there's all kinds of different things that you experience if you have larger breasts versus if you have smaller breasts. Listen, the machine is not fun no matter which way you fall, no matter what side of that you you fall on, but the machine is not fun, okay? But a little bit of discomfort, we're talking 5-10 minutes of discomfort to make sure that you are healthy, or to find something early, get treatment, and make sure that you can still live a long time. I would say it's worth it. I'll give you my quick story, my personal story around mammograms and breast cancer. So my mother is a breast cancer survivor. She was diagnosed very early because she had her annual screening. And once she was diagnosed, she had surgeries. They actually she did not need chemo or radiation. She had, I think, like 3 surgeries to remove it all. And then, it was gone and it's been gone. And so she was going for every 3 months and every 6 months. And now she's at annual. I think she's around like 8 years or something like that. Like it's been a long time. And so we're really, really grateful for that. But because of that, she had advised me to start getting mine early, before 40. And I don't think I did. Me and my sister. I don't think I did. I think I got it. I think I started it. No, I might have started at 39. In any event, got my first mammogram. Everything was fine. No problem. All right. See you next time. Went back the next year. So that was last year. Got my mammogram and they were like, "Oh, we need to do an ultrasound." And I immediately was like, "Oh no. Oh no." I was fraidy cat. And ultimately, I'm fine. There was no cancer. I can give that story, the complete story, another time. But I had to have a mammogram, and then they had to redo my mammogram, and then they had to do an ultrasound, and they were going to do an MRI, and they were going to do this, and they were going to do that, and they did a bunch of things, and they couldn't find it. The point of me sharing that is that even though it was a little bit, not a little bit, it was a lot of bit anxiety inducing. What I was certain of is that if I did have breast cancer, it would have been caught very early because I was getting my mammograms annually. So please get them things checked out, y'all. You want them to be around for a long time, to have lots of fun with you. So just make sure you get them checked and stay on top of that. It could be the difference between life and death. So that's enough on that. We have a fantastic guest today to really celebrate Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We have with us Maxine Hobson, who is a breast cancer survivor. And primarily, this episode is going to be about her talking through her experience and her words. I'll have some questions and we'll guide the conversation a little bit. But really, this is about her story, her strength, and her triumph. So, welcome, Miss Max, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really, really excited. So I met Miss Max because her and my mom were attending the same church and they became friends. And she's just super genuine from the moment I met her. I could fully understand why they became friends. And she's not one of those friends that just goes along to get along. She would definitely tell you like, that's not the right move, or I think you should do something different. So yeah, just a big fan. And so most people know that my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer and it has been breast cancer free for many years. But very recently, Miss Max received her diagnosis. So I just want to go to that moment. Can you talk about, kind of what was going on and then what happened for you once you heard the diagnosis? What happened in your mind, your heart, your spirit, all of that?
Well, I just want to say thank you again for having me. Um, so, my journey began in November. It was an exciting time for me after retiring and coming back to the workforce. I was starting a new job in November, and just before our Thanksgiving, I had a chance to meet my staff. Prior to that, 2 weeks prior to that, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I had no idea. One, to be honest, I wasn't going to go get the mammogram prior to that because I was so busy. And I said, well, I could put it off and just wait a couple weeks. Thank God I didn't do that. So I was diagnosed. Um, I started my job. I was supposed to start my job that November. So a week before then, when I went in to meet my staff, I had called my supervisor to the side and I told her, guess what? I said, I just was diagnosed with breast cancer. And the funny thing she said to me was, oh, no problem. You're home. And I don't think she really realized what that did, but I believe it was because God had spoke to her spirit to have her say that to me. And after that encounter, I started my treatment 2 weeks after that. But let me go back. When I went into when I went to see the oncologist, um, I had came with knowing, okay, I have breast cancer. I need to do surgery. I'll have the surgery. Then I will just do radiation and take the pill. Didn't know that at the time I had to take an onco test, which is a test that will consider where you fall into place of your treatment. So I came ready for those two things, but I had no idea she was going to say I had to do chemo. And when she said I had to do chemo, at that point I needed to take a break. And I said, "Could you give me a minute?" Because I had to gather my thoughts. And after that, because I believed God and He said this wasn't unto death to me, my faith kicked in. And I said, "When can we start?" Started my journey with chemotherapy in January. I had 12 sessions of chemotherapy. After chemotherapy, I had 9 sessions of radiation. And after that, I was placed on a hormonal pill. The type of cancer I had was hormonal based. And also, it wasn't hereditary. So I was glad about that. But through that journey, although it was hard during my chemo, I just kept holding on to my faith, letting God just minister to me, letting me know that um, I was going to make it through that. Not only that, there was friends. Your mom, Leslie, was, ministering to me, letting me know that everything was going to be okay. Anything I needed, she would be right there. She was concerned about that. And so that's how my journey began. And I just took one day at a time with my church family. They were there. And outside of that, I just had to rely on God and just rest in Him, which that wasn't something that I was used to doing because I was always moving. But at this point, God allowed me to rest in Him and let me get closer to Him to know that all was well and all things was working for my good.
So that's a really intense, like squeezed time period where everything just happened.
Yeah.
So I want to go back for and ask you one quick question. When you said that you were not prepared to hear that you had to do chemotherapy, and you needed a break when you heard that. Can you talk about what that meant for you, or why, in your mind, like, okay, we can do all this stuff. I'm not doing chemo, but I can do this. Like, what was it about chemotherapy that was particularly like daunting or scary?
What it was about chemotherapy, one was the fact that I didn't think that I was going that route. That was number one. Number two was all the things that I had heard in the past, which was you're going to lose your hair. That was the very first thing. Mind you, when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I was already diagnosed with alopecia when I was 28 years old. I just went bald um, May of 2023. So God had prepared me because I had never wore my hair out. I've always wore a weave, and most people didn't even know that I had alopecia. But it was almost like a coming out of this hiding. One day I just said, you know what? I'm tired of masking and wearing a weave, and I want to give my hair a break. So when I came out of the weave, I came out of it saying talking about my diagnosis of alopecia that I had many years ago, not knowing 2 years I was going to be diagnosed with breast cancer. And so when they told me about the chemotherapy, those same thoughts that I thought years ago when people would talk about chemotherapy, you will lose your hair.
Mhm.
And so my oncologist said to me, she said, "What are you afraid about chemotherapy?" And I thought about it for a second, losing my hair. But I didn't have any. I was already bald, so after that thought came to mind, I said, yeah, what am I afraid of?
Mhm.
I said, let's do it. We wasn't supposed to start until a month later. I said,
Mhm.
how soon can we get this started?
Yeah.
And we started the week right after.
Yeah. And let me just pause and say, I did meet you before you were bald.
Yeah.
Um, but I do not remember whatsoever. The first time I saw you with your bald head, I was like, "Why have you been wearing hair at all? This is you." And I mean, you wear it so well, and you're so
Thank you.
beautiful. And so, before any of the cancer stuff, I was like, "Oh, that's Miss Max. That's your look." Like, I
Yes.
don't remember you a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because a lot of people said that to me. They were like, they don't remember me actually having hair.
Yeah.
And people stop me all the time just to say something about my bald head, you know. And I thank God because um I don't think I would have been able to do it years ago
Mhm.
because I wasn't in a place of faith where I am now.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm
So you
just
didn't even
thankful.
have the hair issue. But isn't that a powerful thing to think about, how there was some anxiety or trepidation about losing hair that you didn't have just because that's what was in your mind? It was like, "Oh no, wait, that's not even a thing."
Right.
Oh, okay.
And that's so true because even how when people lose a lot of weight, they still wear larger clothes
Yep.
because they can only see their self in that larger body.
Yep.
And so this was something once she said that I had to think about it like, okay, the first thing that I thought about was something that I thought about many years ago.
Mhm.
And here that wasn't even my case.
Yeah. And so God actually took you through a journey of, "Oh, you're not even gonna have to worry about that part."
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, when I did shave my head because of alopecia, I remember the night that I did this. It was on a Sunday evening. After I shaved my head, I looked myself in the mirror and I heard the Lord say, I will deal with a health challenge of cancer. And I looked in the mirror like, I said, okay. I said, okay, God, you know, not really, you know, bringing it to light, but I was like, okay, because I know what we go through is for someone else. I said, okay, and went about my business. I said, God, you ain't gonna leave me. And went about my business, not knowing 2 years later, I would
Yeah, you're
deal
right.
with this health challenge.
Right.
But I knew God was there from the start to finish, and He wasn't gonna leave me.
That's the key part. So I wanted to ask you, when you go through something like that, and I just know from being on the other side as a child of a parent who went through this, it's not just you going through it, but it's your family, your friends, it's people in your circle, people who care about you. Um, what was what was it like for you, as you as the people in your life were also walking through this with you? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, how did that weigh on you, or did it weigh on you?
Well, it did weigh on me. I have a daughter and a son. Daughter is 31, my son is 25. And the first thing I did was I talked with, well, no, I didn't. I am divorced, but me and my ex husband are friends.
Okay.
The first person I actually called was him. And I said, listen, this is what's up. And his next words to me was like, ain't no battle that we can't conquer. I said, I'm gonna talk to the kids and talk to them about it. So I talked to my daughter and I talked to my son. When I talked to my son just froze. When I talked to my daughter, she was just, you know, I could tell she had that look on her face like, okay, mom, we in this together. But I knew I can see her through that. When And so after I talked to them and told them what what I was going to do, they were fine with it. I'm a very private person. So I have six sisters. So I said, well, the best thing I can do is get everyone on a Zoom. Got everyone on a Zoom and I said, hey guys, I got something to share with you. and I went to tell them. But before I shared that with them, I told them where my faith was before I even said what was going on. And so, in talking to them, I said, they let me know we in this together. Anything I needed. And because they handled it the way I wanted them to handle it, they didn't bombard me because I'm a private person. And also, people that were around me knew I was a private person. So I didn't take anyone to chemotherapy with me through my treatments. My children's father, my ex-husband, he took me to treatment every single day, the whole time for my chemo and my radiation. And also, my best friend had a neighbor who just knew me. God is so amazing because this woman used to be, she retired from Penn, but she was one of the supervisors for the chemo cancer center.
Oh, wow.
She took it upon herself to go with me every single day for chemo. And that's who went with me. I didn't have any of my family members go. Um, and that made me feel comfortable. And on top of that, they respected the fact that I wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm. That's really important to have to let people walk through the journey. It's yours, right?
Right.
They're there to support, that they love you, but the journey itself is yours. And as a as a child, I was there with my mom, and but you have to let the person feel how they feel, experience it how they're going to experience it, and then you have to take their lead. Like,
Yes.
and
Yes.
sometimes that's hard. Sometimes that's tough.
Very hard.
But when you love someone, you have to let them you have to do that. You have to do that. So I'm glad that that was the case for you. And so, how did you handle? So there's a lot of things that the lay person, like the average person in the world, knows about breast cancer. They know about, or cancer in general. You do these
Right.
treatments, and this, that, and the third. But I'm sure there are parts of the journey that were just yours. What parts of it of your journey were just not what people normally think about, and then how did you handle that?
Um, the part of the journey that was just mine was not knowing, having a knowing that I was going to live through it. My faith told me that. But the human side of me was, after all of this is over, how will my life be? That was my journey. And that was the question. That was my thought process on when I would do chemotherapy. So much so, I didn't ask any questions as I was going through it. I went to chemotherapy. I did what I needed to do. I went to radiation. I did what I needed to do. But to ask a whole bunch of questions and keep those thoughts in my mind, I didn't. Actually, just when I went for my follow up was when I talked more to my oncologist about, so what type of cancer did I have?
Mm.
How many people lived through this? I just chose not to do that during my process because I didn't want to have that thought, have I can go from one to 100 thinking thoughts that could happen that will never happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to give the enemy that time to mess with me mentally. And also the pain, how I felt during my process. I just went through the pain, just most people didn't know. I told them that I will just send an emoji. If you called me, I would send an emoji thumbs up, or I would send praying hands, just pray.
Mm-hmm.
And people respected that. And that's what they did. And I felt the prayers and the love from others.
So can you talk more about the physical pain? I'm not sure if the average person really understands what is happening when you're receiving chemo treatments or radiation treatments, and what it actually feels like.
Okay. Well, one is that how I can describe it was that I felt like I was in a meat grinder.
Wow.
And the only time, honestly, the only time when I remember this is when God allows me to help someone else like I'm doing now. Other than that, I can't remember. Um, but now that I'm helping, giving a testimony, I'm able to go back to that place. And I didn't have taste buds.
Mm.
Now, some people have dealt with it. They couldn't keep nothing on their stomach and things of that sort. I thank God that wasn't my issue. I just couldn't eat. I didn't have taste buds, and I had neuropathy in my hands and feet. And the neuropathy would sometimes be very painful, but I was able to just sleep that off. I didn't take additional medicine for it. I just prayed and just asked God to help me to sleep through it. And that's what I did. Um, but the effects that you have after this is over are still the neuropathy. I still have no feeling in my tips of my fingers. It's better now than it was then. And I have neuropathy in my feet. Um, and again, it's not as bad as it was during that time, but it was painful. It was painful.
So walking through that, seriously, I can't imagine because I have a pretty high tolerance for pain, but I actually think about childbirth. And that was something that I was like, sheesh, that's the most pain I've ever experienced. So, like when you say meat grinder, I'm like, okay, okay. And the hard part about wrapping your mind around that is this is making you better.
Yes.
Like it's to make you physically better, but it really, really, really hurts right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was the thing, that mindset of knowing I got to go back next week, knowing going back is going to bring all that pain.
Mm-hmm.
And after chemotherapy, I would have that pain for 3 days. Then it would get better. But I would have to go to chemotherapy. I would have 2 days, and then I would have to go back to
Go back.
chemotherapy to get the pain again.
Yeah.
And so I sort of psyched my mind up to say, okay, this is going to happen. And I had to psych my mind up because I
Mm-hmm.
knew after I have chemotherapy, I knew that Saturday, because I had chemotherapy on Fridays, I knew that Saturday I was going to feel that pain for the
Yeah.
next 3 to 4 days,
Yeah.
and I wasn't going to be able to eat. And
So when you did the chemotherapy first and then you did radiation and you did that like
yes,
right after.
right, I had
Okay.
the first thing I had was my surgery for
Okay.
them to remove it,
Okay.
and after I had my surgery for them to remove it, I started chemotherapy like 3 weeks after that. I
Okay.
had 12 bouts of chemotherapy, and that was every 2 weeks. And then I had radiation, and they gave me 9 sessions of radiation. And after that, I had to wait 4 weeks, and then I started medication daily. And the medication, like I said, the medication have side effects wherein that it causes you to have achy bones. So I still do get that with the neuropathy as
Mm-hmm.
well as in my fingers and in my feet. Um, but it's something, because childbirth is one thing. It's almost like childbirth, because when you think about the whole process, you might can't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I associated chemo, going through that the same way. I cannot remember how the pain really felt
Mm-hmm.
until now I'm talking about it.
Got you. Got you.
Yeah.
Um, so incredible amount of strength that it takes to get through something like that, to go through it, to the actual story of it. Like you said, going through that cycle of it's gonna hurt and it's going to keep hurting when I'm done this session, and it's going to keep hurting, and then I'll get to this day and it'll ease up, and it'll ease
Back.
up, and then I got to go back to do it again. And so you kind of get used to that cycle, but the cycle of pain is the biggest part of the cycle.
Yeah.
Like that's the longest part. So to be able, for anybody to be able to endure that, for me, I think that is the picture of strength, right? It's not that you didn't have tears, it's not that you weren't frustrated, it's not that you don't have, like, whatever emotions come along with it, but it's that you keep going.
Yes.
Because I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I really can't imagine. So you went through that, and how long after the treatments did you get your, or actually, let me not ask it like that. So after your treatments were finished, then what happened?
After my treatments were finished, I remember the last day that I had my radiation and I was able to ring the bell. This was the time that I took my daughter because I wanted her to film it. Prior to that, she had not been to the hospital with me at all. And I want to say I was grateful because she did feel like, Mom, was I there for you? And
Mm-hmm.
I had to have this conversation. Yes, you were. This is what I wanted, and I'm so glad that you did what I asked. Um, but the day of me ringing the bell was my last treatment of radiation. And it felt so, like, I just felt, I said to God, I said, God, you said I shall live and not die. And I said, God, you kept your promise, and I walked out of that room. I told everyone thank you. And I also told them, just as sure as I'm standing here, I will never have cancer go through my body again in Jesus' name. That is the
Amen.
faith. That is my faith statement
Mm-hmm.
that you won't see me again. I'm glad y'all
Mm-hmm.
saw me, but y'all won't see me again
Mm-hmm.
this ever again in Jesus' name.
Amen. And amen. So you mentioned earlier that one of the things that you thought about as you were going through the process, in those moments that by yourself, and the moments that were yours alone, one of the questions you had was, I know that God's going to bring me through this, but what will life be like after?
Yes.
So can you talk a little bit about what life is like since
Well, I
that
would
last treatment?
say, I would say life has been good. Although I still have the neuropathy in my hands sometimes and I have it in my feet. I look at it like it could have went another way, but God.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day that I get up, I'm like, okay. Also, you get brain, it's called chemo brain, which give you this fog. And I had that. And I was so excited about about a couple weeks ago. I felt like the thought process of how I do my work was coming back.
Mm.
And so I was excited about that. So every day I'm getting better and better. Every day my hands are feeling better and better and my feet are getting better as well. And I must say there is physically there's a difference because when you go through radiation you do deal with a burn. So I have some discoloration,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still here. And that's all I say is every day it could be worse,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm still here.
Yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah. And we thank God for that.
Amen.
As we close, I just wanted to ask you, while you were going through your process, and even now in the times where you have to maybe deal with some physical things that might be frustrating, what are some passages of scripture or words that people spoke or songs or things that you kind of held on to walk through the process?
Well, one of the scriptures I held on to is all things are working for my good. Even when I went through the pain, I said all things are working for my good. And the other scripture was God is concerned about everything you're concerned about. Give no thought for tomorrow. For tomorrow will work out itself
Mm-hmm.
because God is working out tomorrow, your tomorrow already.
Yeah.
That was another, for my shame, I shall receive double.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that I'm a seed sower, I sow good seed on good ground. I know that God is going to allow that same seeds that I've planted in others' lives to come back to me. And the song that I kept is one, Never Alone, Never Would Have Made It. Is another song that I did, that the Lord is my shepherd. I kept that. That was one. Can't think of the song now, but those was the things, the scriptures, you know, um, my faith, it just was built up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I kept on saying. God, you got this.
Mm-hmm.
God, you got this.
Yeah.
And every time I said that, he gave me the extra strength that I needed.
Awesome. If there's anything that you're going through, it doesn't have to be breast cancer, but there's an example here of, if I'm going to trust God, like no matter the outcome. I'm
Yes.
going to trust God and know that all things are working for my good.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll leave you with the last word on anything that you want to share about your journey, anything you want to say to people, encourage people, anything at all.
Well, I just want to say that if you have to go through this challenge, know that you will never go through it alone. God said he will never leave you nor forsake you. And have that faith, the trust that God keeps his promises. God is a promise keeper. And no matter what it is, we can talk to him and we can consult him and allow him to work out every detail, knowing that all things are working for your good. And that's all I have for you.
Awesome. That's it. That's the episode. What did you think? Please rate, comment, review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. If you engage in that way, it will get the podcast in front of more people. It'll appear in more people's algorithm. So please engage. Let us know what you think, and please reach out if you have anybody that you think has a story of resilience, and any woman, and you think their story should be told in this format. Please reach out. Best way to reach out is on Instagram at Unbreakable Her podcast. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Stay unbreakable.